You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome inside another edition of the Postcast presented by the Locked On Senators podcast and, of course, one of our favorite sponsors, the Glebe Central Pub. I'm Brandon Piller alongside Piller Martian. You can find him at Piller Martian, merely a conduit of the streets. And if you guys are watching the Postcasts, you know if you're seeing my mug and Martian's mug together, it was likely a 5-2 loss, and that's how things ended today. The Vancouver Canucks hand the Ottawa Senators a 5-2 loss. Martian, you had boots on the ground. Give us your overall impressions of this one from the atmosphere at the CTC.
Yeah, I mean, the atmosphere was pretty good. Pilsy, over 16,000 in the building on a Thursday night, rainy night. I think, there was a good crowd in there. I think people were excited coming back off that, game last night against the Leafs. Yep. And what happens, Pilsy? They kind of lay a little bit of an egg, and someone in particular is laying an egg, and that for me was Anton on Forsberg tonight. He couldn't make a save, Pilsy.
Well, Martian, that was going to be my Sun Central standout tonight, but I guess I shouldn't go in that direction. No, I'm obviously kidding. Not even I could spin zone that Anton Forsberg had a good night here. This might have been, I don't know, maybe people in the chat can let me know, but this might have been Forsberg's worst game ever. Like, honestly, this was so bad.
It might have been, Pilsy, because, you look at that first period, and I know they were all quality chances. I mean, it's safe to say that, I think, right? Maybe the first one was less quality than the other two, but, I mean, his 3 shots on goal that he faced in that first period, both Ross tweeted it out earlier. First 2 shots ended up in the back of the net. One of them was, a semi-breakaway where, he gets tucked on between the legs. And the third one was a breakaway of its own that he ended up stopping. So 3 shots on goal, 2 against. That's a terrible, save percentage when you're at that point in the game. And honestly, it didn't improve that much, Pilsy, because the Vancouver Canucks didn't have that many shots in this game.
No, and that's the thing. Like, most of the time, I feel like when teams get a lot of goals on the Sens, at least I try to spin zone it, be like, hey, they kind of left the Sens out to dry here. Like, you can't really blame the goalies. Look at the defensive structure here. But, like, I can't even do it this time, Martian. That was just a brutal start. And you were at the game, so you didn't have to deal with this. But for everyone watching on TV, or at least for me, it happened. TSN was still running commercials, and then they all of a sudden flip to the game, and there's like a whistle's being blown. I'm like, what's going on here? And then they showed the replay of Forsberg making the save, and you're like, oh, nice, he got a good save here. But then it's like, okay, no, that was a good save. Yeah. But the reason they blew it down is because that glove's across the line. And I don't know what that was like in the arena, Martian, because we missed the first couple seconds of that game, and the Canucks had 4 shots on goal in like 45 seconds.
It was super confusing because we all saw the save and we're like, oh yeah, exactly. Same thing as you. Great save there. I think that everybody thought that it was just a legitimate save. And then next thing you know, they put on that James Bond music when something's under review. Great touch there by Sen.
Yeah.
Really nice touch, but then we're all like, well, why are they even reviewing this? Like, he clearly stopped that with his glove. And then they did show the replay in the arena, and to me, like, I was like, well, they didn't call it a goal on the ice, so it's like, okay, they need to have conclusive evidence to be able to turn that into a goal. I'm like, there's no way that's going to end up being a goal. And then what happens? It turns out to be a goal. And I don't know if it was different on TV, Pilsy, if there was an obvious view where they could see that the full puck was in the back of the net. But for me, I've never seen a goal really overturned when not the entire glove is in the net. Like, to me, it looked like part of his glove was still outside the net. He wears a white glove, so maybe there was contrast there that you could see on the TV screen. But CTC doesn't have the best jumbotron in the league. It's probably due for an update at this point. So we couldn't really see it in the arena. So everybody was shocked when that turned out to be a goal when we were in there. It was kind of
that was exactly it, Martian. Like, the replay they were showing on TV, you could see that black puck and that white glove, and just like the kind of the meshing was back behind and over the line. And normally you get those calls where it's like, okay, everyone that has common sense knows that puck is across the line, but if you can't see it, even the most common sense
Right.
can't overturn it. But this was clearly, no, there's the puck. It's over the line, unfortunately.
Oh,
so,
really? Okay, so I'm completely wrong on that, I guess.
well, you probably didn't get the replays that we got on TV, so we'll let you slide on that one.
But
Marshall.
a really odd feeling for the Sens at that point in the game because it was so early, right? And it was like, oh, well, like what happened? And then all of a sudden it's a goal, and you're down 1-0 so early, and like it just felt like, hate to say it, but it felt like a bit of a bad bounce. I think like in the building when you were there for that one to count, it just didn't feel right to me, Pills. He didn't sit well.
No, that's tough, especially like that's how you're going to go down to one of the hottest teams in the NHL. 15 seconds in is when the goal is recorded. And Forsey kind of seemed very, Noodles talked about it on the broadcast. He's very nonchalant getting over there to make the save. And then he kind of just like lets the puck go after it. It was just a weird play overall. So you don't love to see that as producer Ross pulls up the stats here. When you look at the shots, like you mentioned, Martian, like this is a game where the Ottawa Senators didn't give up a whole lot. And one of the people in the chat mentioning that a lot of the goals happened on high danger scoring chances, and the Vancouver Canucks were getting a lot of high danger scoring chances. But I mean, when you're basically doubling up a team on shots, like you got to be able to get better results.
Well, I mean, like the Sens had their fair share of scoring chances themselves that they did score on, and then ones that they didn't score on, right? And I mean, we could jump right into the Batherson play. I believe it was on the power play when he had that backhand chance. Yeah. It pops right out to him, and he just makes he tries to make it almost a little too pretty because he had the wide open net. And he puts that one off I guess it was off the crossbar. He's got to bury that one, Pilsy. For me, like he's had too many early chances to not bear down on that and put it in the back of the net. You'd think you'd be a lot hungrier to score that goal, which, maybe that was the one that woke him up for a little later in the game when he ended up potting one actually, which was a great move. But at the same time, Pilsy, like that's one that's got to go in the back of the net, right? As far as early chances goes, Drake Batherson gets a lot of them. And he hasn't really been coming through with them. And then this one here, he needed that. We all needed that one. And then the other big one, obviously, that we'll talk about is the Tkachuk one, where same kind of deal. He had more time than I think he realized. He probably could have just two-touched that one and easily buried it. And he just tried to get it off quick, and he missed. So those were the two for me where I'm like, that's the difference in the game combined with the goaltending. Like, hey, bounces didn't go our way again, boys.
Yeah, don't we know that in November as Ottawa Senators fans? But yeah, I agree with you, Martian. Batherson has to have that opportunity. I feel like when he gets those grade A chances, he just holds on to it for a second too long. Like he's got the talent that he doesn't need to take that extra second. He's got the skill that he can get a shot off and get a better opportunity to score. But mind you, that's on the backhand. He hits the crossbar. Kind of classic for Batherson in the first period, but he does make up for it. And I want to give Batherson some credit here on that goal that he scores. Like, finally, we're getting to see Batherson where he's able to strip a guy from a puck. Ross and I saw him do that plenty of times in Belleville and then create offense. And Martian, I don't know about you, but I thought he was going to mess this chance up again because he almost does. He slows back to do a bit of a toe drag and then bobbles it a little bit and then barely is able to tuck it under the crossbar for the goal. But if we're going to harp him for grade A chances that he misses, you got to give him credit when he's able to make a play on his own. There's no one even there, and he strips the puck off Cole, sends legend Ian Cole, and he's able to bury on the breakaway as well. So that's kind of the Batherson experience, although mostly so far, Martian, he hasn't been able to put the puck in the back of the net very often.
No, and you do have to give him credit for that one, Pilsy, because that was a sweet looking goal, and we've seen him use that move before, where he kind of fakes to the backhand and quickly brings it back over the forehand to go high, and I think Bobby Ryan was tweeting about it earlier today too. That's just a silky move, and that's kind of a goal scorer's goal, and let's be real, like we need that from him, right? He's got to have more by now. We need more finishing out of Drake Batherson right now. I just feel like, with what he's doing on the defensive side of the puck, if he's not scoring, then he's hurting the team more than he's helping the team, right? Don't you agree? I mean,
no, big time.
You can look at the giveaway that he had one tonight where it led directly to a goal yet again, where he's just being a little bit nonchalant, a little soft on the puck, coughs it right up, and then next thing you know, Sens are getting scored on. So for me, Drake Batherson, if he's not scoring, he better improve defensively, because he's not a dog. And I'm a player when they're a dog, they're going in there, they're playing hard, they're winning battles, things like that. I look at the Calgary Flames game from a few nights ago where they sat Jonathan Huberdeau for a full period. I think when a guy like you could have done, honestly, I would have made a case that DJ could have done it to Timmy at the beginning of the game when he on the the second goal. I mean, Timmy had a giveaway too that led directly to one. It might have been the first one. But that's maybe not the guy you want to sit down. And obviously you think maybe you're hurting the team by doing that. But you also might get a response from other guys or from that player when you end up putting him back in. And the one thing a coach can do is sit a guy on the bench and say, you're not doing it right now. You need to think about how you've been playing. And then that guy's gonna be like, what the heck? I want to be a part of this. Like I want to help the team win. Sit him for a few shifts, something that we never see from DJ. And obviously he's getting a lot of love from, I don't know if you saw the Pierre LeBrun article from earlier today in The Athletic. Steve Stales basically doubled down on the vote of confidence for DJ, saying we need to calm things down here. But, for me, the one thing he can do is control ice time on these guys. And everybody's using the word accountability. And Pillsy, the lack of accountability for these giveaways is honestly astounding. Like, it doesn't have to be a permanent thing, sit the guy down and calm him down and then hope there's a response from it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Martian. Like around the league, like I think even Johnny Gaudreau's been benched. Like a lot of coaches are benching star players that aren't kind of meeting expectations. And you don't really see DJ Smith do that. Like the only guy DJ benches is like Mark Kastelic and Nicholas Matingpalo, like guys that like
it doesn't matter. They're already not playing every other shift, right? A guy like Batherson too. And I hate to single him out because I like the player usually. But at the same time, like he's a super well-liked guy in that room, right, Pilsy? And obviously DJ's got a soft spot for him, a couple of East Coasters, right? They they got the love for each other. And then so, good time guy, that's the guy you can do that to, and everyone's gonna be like, oh crap, like where's Drake? Like Drake's not playing. Oh, why? Because he's not doing the right things right now, and everybody knows he's a good player. But that's a message you can send as a coach that just I needed to be sent a little bit more from DJ and the coaching staff. We're at the point where these games actually are starting to mean a lot more and more as we go on through the season, especially with the record being what it is right now. 2 games below 500. That's not perfect. And they're going into Sweden soon. They need to win on Saturday.
Yeah, that game up against Calgary is a big one because like if you lose that one, that makes it 6 straight home losses, and it hasn't been a lot of fun being at the CTC watching these guys. And we're gonna get to our standouts after a quick message from some of our friends, but it's scraping the bottom of a barrel at least for me. Martian, you got to hop on and you got the first standout. So the chat's going to love you. And I don't think the chat's going to love me too much, but that's all right. That's the duality of doing the postcast here. But unfortunately, the Sens bus back to the Glebe Central pub is not going to be as happy as it would have been if they drove all the way from Toronto back to Ottawa in last night's game. But the one thing about the Glebe Central pub is you can always expect great food, great drinks, and great service. We love going to the Glebe Central Pub in the heart of the Glebe, 779 Bank Street. They are the official sponsor of the Postcast, and they want to get Sens fans out to as many games as possible. Heck, they're even providing a bus to do it. And not only are they giving you the bus, but they're giving it to you at great value. $17 gets you a round trip to the arena from the pub, and then after the game, Sue brings you right back to the Glebe Central Pub, and it's it's a great experience.
Sue alone is worth the price of admission.
She's an absolute character, and she knows her way around. Anytime there's traffic, she's zipping through any side avenues that she has to take. So don't just take our word for it, though. Check out the Glebe Central Pub Sens bus yourself. Again, Check out the website. Visit them at 779 Bank Street, the Glebe Central Pub. We are also brought to you by our friends over at Parkview Advance. As a business owner, you realize there are times when receivables might fall behind, but that doesn't mean you need to fall behind on vendor payments, payroll, or rent. For more than 25 years, Parkview Advance has helped businesses secure working capital. From $5,000 to $1.5 million, Parkview Advance can improve your working capital in as little as 24 hours. It's a much easier process than you probably think. And we invite any entrepreneurs that are Locked On Senators fans to learn more by calling at 203-675-0071 or check out the website parkviewadvance.com. If your business needs working capital, call Parkview Advance today. Parkview Advance, helping businesses with their working capital. Go to parkviewadvance.com. All right, we're back in the postcast here. 5-2 loss to the Vancouver Canucks. Martian, how many 5-2 losses are you and I going to cover on our own? This is getting out of hand here.
I hope never again, Pilsy. It's getting tough for you and I. It's not easy to do these games. It's fine though. Actually, like there's stuff to talk about here. I feel like this team, we're not dead yet. I think anyone who's like really panicking or anything like, I think that's you need to calm down with that, in my opinion. I do think that I still am holding out hope that this team will be able to turn it around. Sweden's going to go one of two ways, right? It's like it's either going to bring this team together. They're going to go on, take a little break. Maybe they all delete their social media like Brady said he did. Yeah. And they can go to Sweden and, bond as a team and hopefully, break off a couple W's and then come back feeling a little rejuvenated. But going on that big of a road trip is tough. It's tough to recover from. So it's going to be a really good test for this team because I mean, they're going to have to do something here, Pilsy. Like they're going to have to figure it out because time is slipping away and we're in November.
Yeah, November. We all love it. And the thing with the Sweden trip, Martian, is the stretch in between games where if you lose those games, you're stewing on those losses, just makes things so much harder. Now, sure, there are some positives about the break. Injured guys coming back. Hopefully you get a healthier roster sooner rather than later. You get games in hand further down the stretch. But you also get a much more compacted schedule later on as well. Like the back-to-backs in March and in December are no joke. So this team's going to pay for it later. But it would be nice if they could take advantage of all this time, rest as a weapon, Guy Boucher style. But doesn't seem like that's been helping them so far here. But huge game up against Calgary this weekend.
Yeah, like honestly, early in the season, I feel like having a busy schedule is more of an advantage, right? It's like later in the season, having these extra days off is great because a couple guys might be banged up, things like that. But I mean, we're 3 weeks, 4 weeks into the season, and everybody's chomping at the bit to play games. And when you have to sit there for 4 days, it's almost like you're starting all over again, right? Everything needs to be reset. It's not perfect, Pilsy, for schedule. I feel like for this team right now, they were probably super hungry coming in, and if they didn't have that break in between their fourth and fifth game, then I think they could have just kept the momentum going. But because they had that little break, it slowed them down. It's not what you need. It's not good at all. No. It's obviously not working for these guys.
It's not great. Let's get to our Sen Central standouts. I'm doing this a little nervously as people in the chat and yourself, Martian, not too happy with my standout. And look, I'm not that happy about it either. Like, if anything, this is obligatory honorable mention. I think there should be an asterisk there for me here because I'm not standing puffing my chest out with this one. So, Martian, I think part of your outfit gives away your Sen Central standout, so we won't tease the citizens too much longer here.
Yeah, I'll get started here, and it's Artem Zub for me, right? He's coming back in, and he missed what was it, 7 games, and the team had a terrible record without him. And he came in, and he looked like himself, just right back to what he was doing, right? He's always blocking shots. He's always breaking up plays. He's a complete steady Eddie. And then just when you think he can't get any better, Pilsy, he ends up ripping one from the point. Lucky little deflection off a Vancouver player. And I've had the privilege of being in the building for a good amount of Artem Zub's goals.
You really have been, yeah.
I feel like I'm almost there half the time. Like if he scores at home, I'm usually there. I think I've been there for 4 of his goals, which is
Nice.
a good number. How many career goals does he have? Like maybe 10. Anyways,
Yeah, probably around 10. Yeah.
Yeah. So yet again, an experience that if you haven't had it yet as a Senators fan, it's worth going just to hope that he will get one, because it's so fun when the announcer for the Sens, John Trottier, says goal scored by number 2, numero 2, Artem, and then he stops. And then everybody in the stands goes Zoob, and it's electric, Pilsy. It's so fun. I love Zoob. So he had a good little night, right? He had the goal, he had 2 shots, he had 4 hits, 21-12 time on ice. So for me, Artem Zub, thank goodness he's back. The team looked a lot better, I thought, with him. But yet again, we can go back to the giveaways and the goaltending for being the reason they ended up losing tonight. So Artem Zub, that'll be my standout.
Yeah, I like it. I don't think anyone's going to argue. It's always nice when you come back from injury to pot a quick goal and be like, hey, boys, I'm back. Like, here I am. Get the Zub chance going. There you go. My sensational standout is, I'm on my own here. Okay. Is the only other goal scorer for the Ottawa Senators. And I'm going with Drake Batherson. Again, guys, I know I can already hear the boos. People throwing fruit at me here. Maybe people think this is a bit, but there's tell me in the chat. You guys let me know in the chat who you would pick over Batherson here. Like,
Pilsy, I just spent 5 minutes ripping this guy.
I know. Yeah, March. It's like, why isn't this guy getting benched? And I'm trying to stand out here. Look, that goal was a really great play. You got to give it to him. There wasn't a whole lot of like highlight reel plays except Batherson hitting the crossbar and Brady Tkachuk missing a wide open net. So I wanted to highlight that goal first and foremost. That's more of the Batherson we want to see. Unfortunately, the rest of the game, as seems to be the case, I've mentioned before, sometimes in the first period, I'm looking at Drake Batherson and thinking, okay, this guy's having a nice game. And then the rest of the game goes on and it falls apart on him. But he does get seven shots on goal, decent Corsi. I thought it could have been a better game. He kind of led to a couple goals against, unfortunately, but still overall, I couldn't really think of any other players that really stood out or were worth mentioning in my case other than Artem Zub.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. There's pretty slim pickings tonight, but it would have been impossible to pick him tonight just based on what I saw out there. Like for me, he's doing more bad than good. And you think about like the effect that him and Norris, and I'll jump into Norris too, because he's not getting away. He's not getting out of this postcast with a ripping of his own either, because that's a guy who has been nothing but a perimeter player. And I mean, a perimeter player would at least play along the boards, but for me, Josh Norris is stuck in that area between the dot and the hash marks. He doesn't battle in the corners either. And I'm talking about the effect that these 2 guys are having right now on Brady Tkachuk, and it's completely negative. Look at Tkachuk's production since he's been on the line with these guys. Goose eggs.
Yeah.
More or less, right? So like these 2 guys need to get going, and maybe that was the theory there from DJ putting them with Tkachuk, maybe hoping that Tkachuk would get them engaged physically into these games. But both of them are playing like the old, the old school stereotype that people used to have for like European players. You know how like they don't battle. Yeah, like think about the way Don Cherry used to talk about like Euros. For me, like these guys are legitimately playing like that. Like they're not hitting anybody. They're not, getting in there and winning pucks on their own. Drake had the one takeaway where he ended up scoring, right? That's the one you can look at.
That's all I did look at. That's all I had.
That's all you had.
Yeah.
But both those guys are not creating enough of their own chances to be getting the ice time that they're getting. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier. So either of them, like I'd be looking at those 2. And if Norris isn't healthy, then what are you doing out there, man? Because you're not playing your game. And I talked about dogs earlier and like guys who get right in the mix. Norris used to be like that a lot of the time. And he's just kind of cooled it on it for me. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I'm sure it's a lot of hesitancy because of the shoulder issue.
Yeah.
But it's honestly a piss off to watch. It's tough to watch because it's like I watch Norris a lot. I still do. I love the way he skates. He's zipping side to side, getting open, things like that make him a good goal scorer. But he had 0 shots on goal tonight too, Pilsy. Like, if you're not shooting the puck, Josh, what are you doing out there?
Especially as a shoot first center and a guy that can really rip it. Like I always say, I love Josh Norris coming down the wing. He's the kind of guy that can just beat a goalie clean with a nice wrister. And he doesn't seem to do that, much to the dismay of producer Ross Levitan, whose Levy lock was Josh Norris 2+ shots, 0 shots.
Tough
Unfortunately,
bounce.
on that.
I had a bet with Josh Norris shots over 2.5 as well. So I feel you, Ross.
Yeah, I mean, put me in the pit of losers with you guys. Pilsey's parlay of the day. The only leg that didn't hit was Quinn Hughes' shots, and he had 0 shots. My other legs, yeah, you'll see here, over 5.5. Love it. Canucks plus 1.5. Yeah, that one hit. We know that. And Hughes, not enough shots here. So that's tough. Yeah, and with the Sen Central standouts, I didn't want to put Spartacat, or I didn't want to do Sens fans or make a joke of it. So, I went with Baths, and I'm sorry, guys. I didn't want to do it. He was the only other goal scorer in this game.
Yeah. I mean,
Martian,
you could have just gone with Matthew Highmore, even though he didn't shoot on that open cage when DeSmith went out of his way to play the puck and then lost it. And Highmore had it. He should have just shot that thing from across the blue line. He would have scored.
I know, he fanned on it. That's
and
tough.
then he fanned on a second chance where DeSmith overcompensated for sliding into the net, and then he had another open net and he whiffed on that one too. But I didn't think he had that bad of a game. And if you looked at the chart that Ross had thrown up there earlier, according to the analytics people, he played the best out of all Senators. Not that one, Ross, but thanks.
the blue left right numbers, to get really specific with it. I think that's the one you were referring to, Martian.
Yeah.
What did you consider taking Forsberg out of this game, Martian? Was that something that occurred to you in the second intermission, or was that kind of a vibe around the arena, or what were you thinking about that?
No, but I didn't really consider that. Because if it's going to be Korpisalo's night off, it should be his night off. But I almost think they should have just started Korpisalo in hindsight, right? Like,
yeah, back to back.
He's playing well. He would have stopped a few of those, I think, especially those first period shots. I think he would have had one of those, and it would have just probably changed the script of the game. I think if they would have continued going with Korpisalo. Again, it's been a really light schedule, right, Billsy? Like, it's not like he didn't just have 4 nights in a row off.
Sure.
He just played one game after 4 days off. So put him in there for the next one. He's looking good. That's a guy I feel like the more reps, the better. Forsberg has been playing okay this year. I think he did get pulled the one time there. I think it was maybe the Detroit game. But other than that, why wouldn't you just keep Korpisalo rolling? Because it's not like he's tired after playing just one game. I know it's a back-to-back.
I like going back-to-back, switching goalies, just because also, like, if you're Forsberg and they don't go to you after a back-to-back, that's really sending a message like, hey, we really don't want to use you, which, hey, might be the case if he's cold, but...
Well, now what's going to happen? Whose net is it now? It's 100% Korpisalo's net now.
Oh, there's no question you give Calgary to Korpisalo. Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, but as far as pulling him in the third, it didn't really occur to me, but I don't think anybody in the building thought that Forsberg was playing well.
No, it was a tough night. And, like, that's the frustrating thing is I think Martian also, like, the whole idea of bringing Korpisalo in was to have a solid tandem, right? And if you're going to have a solid tandem, you got to give the 1B goalie enough games that he feels like he's in the mix. And I think that's what they're trying to do with Forsberg, but
yeah,
it's not working for him.
Yeah, I just feel like just with the schedule, the way the schedule is working right now with the, it being so kind of stretched out over these weeks, it's like, it feels like it's almost like 2 games a week, 3 games a week, never 4. But when you get into the heavier part of the schedule, for sure it will be more of a 1A, 1B situation. But you got to hope. Otherwise, like, if Forsberg can't bounce back on his next start, then, like, you have no ability to trust him anymore almost. So you almost got to just ride Korpisalo until he flounders or needs a break.
Where do you think this game fell apart, Martian? Because, like, for the most part, like, Sens are... Huh?
I'll tell you.
Okay, all right, all right. I'll flower it up a little for you. For the most part, like the Senators were controlling the puck a lot of time. There was stretches where the Vancouver Canucks just aren't getting anything towards the net. Sure, they might have had the Sens hemmed in their own zone, but the Sens defensive structure was doing a good job of keeping them wide. And Quinn Hughes was skating around like a madman, but he didn't get any shots off. So that's something where you're looking at this Ottawa Senators team and you're like, if you're doing a good job holding offensive powerhouse like the Canucks to a limited amount of shots, like these guys have multiple guys in the top 10 in points in the league, and you're holding them shotless in Quinn Hughes' case, that is. Like, where did this fall apart for them?
For me, it was one of those goals that you and Ross talk about a lot, where it's a end of the period type situation. I believe it was the end of the period. JT Miller's goal at the end of the second, right? Yeah, it was like about a minute and a little bit left, I believe, on that one. And yeah, so that was the one. I mean, that was another like kind of shot from a range that I think Forsberg maybe would have wanted back. It was a great shot. But that JT Miller goal was the one for me where I was like, they're screwed, because going into the third tied would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
But being one down and the way Vancouver's playing, and then of course again, like, they come out and halfway through the period, Mikheyev basically breaks the game open. It's a done deal at that point. But as soon as JT Miller scored that goal, I had just a bad gut feeling about where this one was going, because you could just tell that the Sens kind of sunk a little bit after that one.
Yeah, and that, like, it's been so frustrating watching this team, March, and the goals that opponents are getting right off the face-off on the power plays. That's so demoralizing. Like Jacob Chikrin, say what you want, sure, that's not a great penalty call by the ref. It's a stick lift, and Garland's own stick hits himself in the head. And you can't really blame Garland either. Like if you get whacked in the head with a stick like that, you don't have the time to think, okay, that was my stick, not his, and I shouldn't react. Like it's hitting you in the head. You're gonna knock your head back like that. So they're gonna call that. And on the broadcast, you could hear Chikrin just screaming F-bombs. That must have been loud in the arena.
Yeah, and like, I mean, well, it was loud in the arena
Giroux as well.
The fans started yelling "Ref, you suck" too. Like that was a very loud "Ref, you suck" chant. But like, I mean, kind of did suck. Like that's not a penalty technically, right? You can stick lift a guy all you want. If he hits himself in the face with his own stick, that's not a penalty. So they should have not called it. I don't know what the replay looked like to you, but like for me, it was kind of bang bang, but like it didn't look like Chikrin high sticked him to me. Like he wasn't that close.
No, it was a stick lift. Yeah, Chikrin lifted Garland's stick, and then Garland didn't really have a good hold on it, so his own stick hit him in the head.
Yeah. So like the ref making that call has got to know what happened there. Like you're right there. You got to be sure if you're going to be making that call, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, that just puts it away. 5 seconds later, the face-off is won, and Hughes to Pettersson, and that's a one-timer Forsberg doesn't even have a chance on. So that's the 5-2 goal. That's the last nail in the coffin for the Ottawa Senators here, and unfortunately, they're not able to get it done up against the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks stay hot. The Ottawa Senators have now lost 5 straight games at the CTC. Martian, any final thoughts after this game?
Yeah, they got to win on Saturday. Then now that's the facts. Like if they don't win on Saturday, things are going to get really scary. I honestly, you can blame it on a bunch of different things, but I think this whole fan base is fed up with any kind of excuse at this point. It doesn't matter if they have 3 guys on the back end who are out, maybe 2 now. I guess Zook just came back, but it doesn't matter if they're missing 2 young great centers with Pinto and Greg. They got to win games, Pilsy. They just need to find a way to win games, and they're just failing to do it time after time here. And so for me, this game here, it was nice to be in the building, but I might hesitate next time I go to pull the trigger on a ticket.
Yeah, and that's tough. And after the Calgary game, you won't get that opportunity for quite some time, even though the games in Sweden are labeled as home games. As Noodle said on our show, that's not their home. And those really are not going to be home games, although a lot of Sens fans are going to the games in Sweden, which is awesome. Hopefully the Ottawa Senators can change their fortunes there, but it wasn't the trip to Sweden that is the curse. It's what happens when they return that has Sens fans nervous. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah. I don't want to label it a must win on Saturday, Martian. Because
no, you should. I think it's warranted this time.
I'm pretty sure the Sens are now 1-4 in games that Ross and I have labeled must wins. And we're in the 12th game of the season here. So I don't want to do that.
At least we know Ross will be there for the postcast, so they're not going to get smoked.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're going to have to start adjusting. FanDuel is going to have to start adjusting the odds on Sens opponent money line if they get word that Pilsy and Martian are the only two on the postcast after, because it's pretty much a guaranteed 5-2 loss. So,
yeah, we're gonna have to start betting accordingly, because tonight I got rinsed tonight. But hey, I was excited. I had high hopes. It was disappointing.
Yeah, high hopes for sure. Classic. As Kara says, get your panic button out, Pilsy. The panic button I know where that thing is.
We're not there yet. Kara, I feel you, but we're not there yet.
All right. We'll see. Thank you to everyone that joined us here in the postcast. You guys know we do the postcast. We're grinding. Whether the Sens win 6-3 or lose 5-2, we vibe or we vent. Martian and I seem to be doing a lot of venting, but it's a lot better to vent when you're with 200 of your closest friends. So thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate you all. For myself, Brandon Piller, for the Leames Martian, for producer Ross, working the board here, we thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, Postcast edition, brought to you by our good friends at the Glebe Central Pub. Another episode of the Locked On Senators podcast coming at you tomorrow. You guys know how it is. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Hit the like button for us. And guys, let's throw a couple Go Sens goes in the chat here as we exit here. Thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. Brandon Piller, Leames Martian. Have a good night. Go Sens, go. The Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.